It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the Box. LSU gets set to welcome in the Xavier Musketeers for the final three-game weekend series of the pre-conference slate, and it should be sneaky competitive. We'll say right off the top, there is some weather to look out for game one on Friday, so monitor that, obviously, throughout the day. See if they can get the game in. There's about an 80% chance of rain virtually all day in Baton Rouge. So phrases you might hear Friday are 8 Mile Radius, tarp crew, all of those types of phrases that we loathe in the sport of baseball, but that is something to monitor. Of course, look, we'll do our very best to keep you up to date on any schedule changes that might come to pass. But what we're going to do is we are going to function like LSU is going to play this thing on time, on schedule, all throughout the weekend, and get all three of them in. So that's how we're going to function. So smash the like button, get subscribed up to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, subscribe up on your favorite podcast app, all of that greatly appreciated. You can follow me on Twitter at Musso Matthew, follow me on Facebook, Matt Musso, everything scrolling there on the bottom of the screen for you. We have a lot to get to here. We're going to give you a good deep dive preview of Xavier and, of course, what we want to see from some individuals from LSU and also just LSU as a whole. Let's start it out here. Xavier, they come into this one at 7-6. They were picked to finish second in the Big East this season. They had 4 players make the All Big East preseason team, most of them unanimous selections. This, of course, is a team. We've actually talked about Xavier a good little bit on the podcast when mentioning Justin Lohr, of course, LSU, one of LSU's relievers who transferred in from Xavier. And we've talked about how good they were last year, where they won the Big East tournament, got into the NCAA tournament, went on to make a regional final in Nashville, eliminating Vanderbilt in the process before getting ousted by Oregon. And they have a good core returning from that club. So this is a team that, while you look at the 7-6 record, you say, okay, they might not be that good, but they've been challenged. In their pre-conference, they have challenged themselves early, and in some games, been very competitive. In others, maybe not so much. I'll tell you what I mean momentarily, but that's who Xavier is. A team that was in a regional final last year, has a good core back, and is going to come in here and play hard and look to upset LSU, and we kind of said that off the top of the week here, that it was a sneaky good week, sneaky challenging week for LSU, having to go to Southeastern and then welcome in this Musketeers club. This will be the first meeting between LSU and Xavier in history. LSU is 8-0 all-time against the Big East. So before we get into the pitching matchups and things of that nature, I'll tell you a little bit about Xavier's schedule. I said they've been challenged. They've challenged themselves in the pre-conference. So they opened the season on the road at Clemson. Clemson at the time, a top 10 team in the country. Clemson got all 3 of those wins. They swept Xavier, but the Musketeers were very competitive, especially in the final game of that series. They were down 1 run heading into the bottom of the 7th inning, but a bunch of errors kind of cost them, and Clemson was able to pull away and sweep that. After that, Xavier goes on the road. They upset Louisville. They take a series from Lipscomb. They beat Cincinnati in the midweek. They take a series from Florida Gulf Coast. And before making the trip down to Baton Rouge, they've been up in Ruston facing Louisiana Tech. They took it on the chin pretty good in the Tuesday game versus Louisiana Tech, but then came back and handed the Bulldogs their first loss of the season. La Tech was off to their best start in program history at 12-1, and Xavier upsets them in the Wednesday game to come into Baton Rouge 7-6. So you look at a hot Louisiana Tech team that they were playing, who looks like they're going to be pretty good. Clemson, obviously a top 10 team. We know what type of program Louisville has been. The Cardinal have really struggled this year, but we know what type of program they've been. So the 7-6 record can be a little bit deceiving if you just take that at face value. I mentioned the errors there in that Clemson series. That is one thing to keep an eye on this weekend. I'll just tell you that right off the top. With Xavier, they do not field the ball very well. They are fielding 959 as a club. I mean, they don't just make errors and an error. They make multiple errors normally in the game. So keep that in mind as you watch them. And it makes sense, man. They're from up north. It's not a lot of time outside. You'd think they'd be getting their legs underneath them a little bit, but it just hadn't happened. They might just not be a very good fielding team. That is your overview on Xavier. Let's go ahead and dive into our pitching matchups here for this weekend. And we have set rotations for everybody. For LSU, they're going to run it back as they did in Houston. And for the fourth consecutive week, Xavier's going to send out the same rotation. So let's start game one. LSU, junior righty Luke Holman. It'll be start number 4, appearance number 4, 3-0 on the year with an ERA of 0 and 18 1/3 innings pitched. Holman has walked 2 and struck out 30. The opponent hitting just 133 off the Tiger righty. Luke Holman has been fantastic. This will be a good test for Holman. We're about to get into the Xavier offense, and that is the strength of this team. They are a really pesky offense. They're a very deep offense. I'll explain what I mean. But when you look at Luke Holman, you ultimately want him to just keep the pace that he's on, keep that poise, keep that heart rate, man. Have another good Friday night start. Can you follow up what you did against Texas here? We have no reason to believe he won't off of what we've seen from Holman. But that's it. There's really not much you can do. When a guy's struck out 30, hadn't given up a run, is 3-0, has got 3 wins in 3 appearances, you can really sum it up as just keep doing what you're doing, young man, and that's where we are with Luke Holman. It'll be a battle of Lukes as Xavier will send out junior righty Luke Hoskins. Hoskins will be making his 4th appearance and 4th start. He is 2-1 with an ERA of 9.64 and 14 innings pitched. He has walked 3 and struck out 12. The opponent is hitting 333 off of Hoskins. Now, you might look at those numbers and go, yikes, that's their Friday guy. And I understand. I don't blame you for doing that. He is one of the guys who is preseason all Big East. He had a very, very good year for Xavier last season as a junior. 15 starts, really led them to that Big East tournament championship, was awesome in Big East play. So this is a guy who they've seen plenty from. I mean, you look at this, he had an ERA just north of 4 last year and was 7-2 on the year. So there's plenty in there. When you're looking at stuff from him, it's going to be a fastball that probably about 88 to 92 in that range. He's got a really, really tight breaking ball that he uses as well. So, I mean, he's not really a big strikeout guy. He's coming off of a game in his last start against Florida Gulf Coast where he struck out a career-high 9. So that's a long way to his 12 strikeout total that we gave you there here in 2024. But that means in 2 previous starts, he had struck out 3. So he's not going to blow it by you. He really relies a lot on command, on control, and being in the zone. The problem for him really this year is he's gotten hit a lot more than he did last year. So they have a lot of faith in him. They've seen him be very good. It's just been a very slow start for him, but plenty of preseason hype for a guy like Luke Hoskins. That is who LSU will take their swings against on Friday night, or I should say in game 1 of the series, again, weather pending. In game number 2, LSU sends sophomore lefty Gage Jump to the mound. Jump will be making appearance number 4, start number 3. He is 1-0 on the year with an ERA of 0 and 8 1/3 innings pitched. 1 walk to 11 punch-outs for Jump. The opponent hitting just 107 off of the Tiger lefty. Well, here you go. What do you want to see from Gage Jump? Take the next step. That's what you want to see. LSU has brought him along flawlessly, I've thought, off of this injury. He appears opening day out of the bullpen in the 9th inning, throws 11 pitches, dominant stuff, gets a start in his next appearance. That was against against Northern Illinois, and he goes 2 1/3, gets over 50 pitches. You move him, you keep him in the weekend rotation, I should say. He gets the start in Houston against ULL, goes 5 innings, nearly 5 perfect innings, gets to 76 pitches. So here's the next step. Can Gage jump? Can he at least get you 5 again, but can you extend that maybe to 6 and then 80, 85, maybe 90 pitches for him? That's something I would look for. That's just, again, my opinion there. They haven't given a pitch count or anything for him. I'm just looking at kind of the progression that they've taken him. And if you do that, you expect him to be full go, ready to face Mississippi State in the rotation when LSU starts SEC play. So looking very much to Gage jump for him. He's pitched great. Just take the next step in your, for lack of a better term, rehab, I guess, as they continue to bring him along. Have a great, solid last start before pre-conference and show that you're ready to go for the 30-game grind. That is the SEC. For Xavier, it will be a matchup of lefties. Junior lefty Nolan Hughes, he's a newcomer, transferred in from Fordham. So Hughes will be making appearance for start 4. He is 0-2 on the year with an ERA of 12.15 and 6 2/3 innings pitched. He has walked 14 and struck out a team leading 14. Hughes is a really, really, really interesting arm. The stuff is plenty good from the left side. Like, when y'all see this kid, you're going to be like, wow. 6'5", like, over 200 pounds, big body lefty, can bring it mid-90s. He'll be about 93 to 95 from the left side, has a beautiful looping curveball from the left side. Will even mix in a changeup every now and then, but the command's clearly been the problem. I mean, he's got 14 walks in 6 2/3 innings. That is the issue. I mean, if I'm looking at him, right now, we can pull up stat game by game for Hughes. And I mean, look, it's just clear. He hasn't had a game where he's walked less than 4. So, I mean, that's a huge problem for him. Now, he is coming off a season high 7 strikeouts in his last appearance. He was used in multiple roles at Fordham last year. They have him designated as starter here at Xavier. But, I mean, to illustrate how much of a problem the walks have been, other than just saying he's got 14 in 6 2/3, I mean, when you look at the average against, opponents are only hitting 269 off of him. And I get it. That's still, it's higher than you would want, but the main problem there has been the walk. So when I look at a lineup like LSU, yes, Hughes has great stuff, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was able to get out of some jams potentially. He did that very well against Clemson. Now, he ended up getting chased fairly early in that game, but I think through 3 1/3, I think is what he threw there. But he worked out a jam in the second, a jam in the third, and then in the fourth they ended up having to yank him, and he got charged a few runs after the fact that were the bullpen allowed the inherited runners to score. So he has the ability to get out of jams just because the stuff is, like I said, 93 to 95 from the left side, looping curveball, a nice little changeup. But when you look at a lineup like LSU, who's been very good at pitch selection this year and has been very good at running pitch counts up, provided they stay on their plan, they should have a lot of success against a guy like Nolan Hughes. But wanted to make sure I did due diligence there and mentioned the stuff being what it is. We move on to game number 3. LSU will send junior righty Thatcher Hurd to the bump. This will be start number 4, appearance number 4 for Thatcher Hurd. He is 1-1 with an ERA of 6.75, 12 innings pitched for Hurd, 6 walks and 17 strikeouts. It's kind of the same thing for, and I should say the opponent is hitting, 346 off of Thatcher Hurd. So that's something I want to see him work on. Get the hits down. All right. When we talked about Thatcher Hurd, one of the things we've noted is the walk number is significantly lower than it was last year, and that's been great. What he has to work on now is obviously the hit total. Thatcher Hurd has too good a stuff for the opponent to be hitting 346 off of him. He is he is way better than that. Now, again, when you look at his last start, really when you look at Thatcher Hurd through his first three, he has taken a step forward each time out. I don't really think that is debatable. I mean, if we're being truly honest with ourselves, I don't think that is really debatable. You look at him in game number one against VMI, he goes 2 1/3, gives up the 5 hits and the 4 earned run, 2 2/3, gives up the 5 hits and the 4 earned runs. You look at the start against Stony Brook, okay, he gets you to 4 1/3, 6 hits again, but off of that only gives up 3 earned runs, and you were in a 1-run ball game when he left. Texas State in Houston, he gets you through 5 innings, 7 hits, only 2 earned runs, and ultimately he gets the win there. So you've had that increase. He's taken a step forward each go of this. But for Thatcher Hurd, let's see if we can get that hit number down. So throw in a few more quality strikes. He's throwing a lot of strikes, which is great. Can you throw a few more quality of strikes? And look, that could be a lot of feel for him there. That could also be pitch mix, how they mix his pitches up. I like that they use the curveball more against Texas State and Houston. I would look for that to continue for Thatcher Hurd, because if you can get him with that 3-pitch mix, that curveball can get them off of his slider a little bit. That's great, because the fastball can get up to 97 miles per hour. I look for a really good start for Thatcher Hurd, but I would like to see that hit total come down. And look, this is going to be a good test, because like I said, we're about to get into that Xavier offense, and they can swing it, y'all. The Musketeers can swing it. So this will be a good test. What I don't want is Thatcher Hurd to be looking over his shoulder, potentially at a guy like Cade Anderson. Jay Johnson, he had a quote earlier this week where he was talking about it in the realm of the lineup, but that, he thought they took a step forward in the team where guys aren't trying to go out there and win a job or playing to lose a job. They're just going out there to do their job and do whatever they do to help the team. That's all Thatcher Hurd needs to do. And if he does that, he's going to be very good. But can he take that next step? Can he go a little deeper in the game for you this time? Can he get that hit number down? And I'll tell you this, the one thing I want to continue to see from him as well, that I think he's done well this season, is he's gotten out of his own jams. They haven't had to come get Thatcher Hurd and save him from the middle of the avalanche. He's been able, outside of week 1, he worked out a multiple bases loaded jam against Stony Brook and kept that a 1-run ball game and really limited the damage. And Texas State, he was great for 4 innings, had that long, 40-minute wait or whatever he had in the dugout, and had multiple chances to get out of that with only 1 run scoring. Ultimately, you had the error by Braswell, and a couple more came home. We don't need to rehash that, but he got out of that jam himself without them having to take him out. Now, he had a little bit of a cushion to do it with, but that's still big, I think, for his confidence. So I'm really excited to watch Thatcher Hurd pitch. I think the line's deceiving for him, minus that hit total. We do need to get the hit total down, but I expect a good outing. Again, another step in the right direction for Thatcher Hurd. Senior righty Nick Boyle will go for Xavier. Boyle, 4th appearance, 4th start, 1-0 with an ERA of 4.85 in 13 innings pitched. He has walked 13 and struck out 13. Boyle, interesting arm. He's got a breaking ball that he uses, but it's a lot of fastball, it seems like, from him, and it'll be about 88 to 92. He might bump a 93 there, but he has been one of their more consistent starters. But again, walks a problem. That is a walk per inning for this guy, but also a strikeout per inning. You look at a guy maybe there who potentially has been effectively wild in a guy like Nick Boyle. He as well coming off a career high 6 strikeouts against Florida Gulf Coast. So you're looking at a guy who, well, yes, it's a strikeout per inning on the stat sheet. He's not going to be overpowering. A lot like Hoskins, he's going to rely on a lot of control, which has faltered him a little bit this year, and weak contact. That is what he wants. For what it's worth, the opponent is hitting 328 off of Boyle, so the contact has not been all that weak, really, throughout this starting rotation. When we get into their bullpen, you're going to see a few guys who are actually really strong. It's been the starters that have really struggled for Xavier, but they're all coming off really nice outings in their last time out against Florida Gulf Coast. This is obviously a big step up in competition going up against the LSU Tigers. So that's your pitching matchups for all 3 days. Let's dive into the Xavier offense a little bit. So I've been telling y'all they can swing it. They come in hitting 279, which I know is not going to blow anybody away, but when you consider some of the competition that they have played on the Power 5 and really high mid-major level, a team like La Tech, that's pretty darn good. They can slug it. I mean, this is a team that has 20 home runs so far. So they're averaging a home run and a half per game. They're slugging just below 480 as a team. And what stands out when I look at this team lineup-wise, they appear to be very deep. And I say that not just because of the number of high averages that they do have on this team, but the way games played and at bats have been dictated so far. I mean, I'm looking at this Xavier team right now, and already they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys with 25 or more at bats. Like in that range. Excuse me. Waxman has 24, but he's a huge part of this. We're going to get to him. So 24 or more at bats. They're putting guys in this lineup and kind of interchanging. And I don't really think it's that they're trying to figure out spots just from the outside looking in. I think it's just they've got a lot of guys that they feel comfortable with and want to get at bats, kind of like what LSU's been doing a little bit, just, not to the 14 or 15 guys that LSU has. One interesting thing that stands out about this lineup is Tyler DiMartino. Tyler DiMartino is the leading hitter on this team at 407. He has not played in the last 4 games. Best I could tell, he did struggle with an injury last season, which caused him to miss time. I haven't seen anywhere that's flared up, but something has to give there that your leading hitter who started the first 9 games of the season has not played the last 4. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So just file that away. Keep that in mind. You might not see Tyler DiMartino again in the lineup for Xavier, and that is their leading hitter average-wise. When you get into the other big bats in this lineup, Matt McCormick at first base, preseason All Big East member, leads this team in hits with 17, but is hitting 347, is the leading RBI guy. He's a big left-handed bat, and is tied for the team lead with 4 home runs. So McCormick's the guy who's going to hit in about probably around the 3 or 4 hole for Xavier, and he's off to a really, really nice start, and that's after having a great season last year where he tied for the team lead with 14 homers. Just again showing you this team can absolutely slug the baseball and hit it out of the ballpark. We'll see what the weather is like at the box this weekend, given there potentially could be some rain. Another guy to really circle, keep an eye on in this lineup is Jared Cushing, second baseman, another preseason All Big East guy, another powerful guy who had tied for the team lead last year in homers with 14. Off to a slower start this year, but there's plenty of punch in there. He's also their biggest stolen base threat on the year at 4 of 5, but only hitting 255, has driven in 11 runs. That's Jared Cushing. And then Grant Stevenson, another All Big East preseason guy over at third base. He's played the majority of the games, 11 of their 13 games, so I would expect him to be in there, but he's just off to a slow start. But Stevenson, again, another guy who, they returned from last year's team. Really, really solid player, just off to the slow start. 188 so far this year, but, I mean, they keep going back to him. They keep going back to him despite the slow start. So file that away. If we're looking for kind of the guy who's burst on the scene, that's Isaac Waxman. We mentioned him, said we'd get back to him. He has started plenty lately for Xavier. I almost said Vanderbilt for some reason. For Xavier, you look at Waxman. He has started 8 games, played in 9, started 8 games and left, including the last 7 games, and he is hitting .464 so far in the season and has matched McCormick's total of 4 home runs. Waxman did not play last year at all as a freshman at Xavier. Didn't even take a red shirt, but just didn't play. Now back as a sophomore, has really burst onto the scene. So that is somebody to absolutely keep an eye on. Matthew Dupre has started all 13 games behind the plate. It's showing you just how deep this team is. Again, off to a bit of a slower start. Aiden Anderson's hitting .333. That guy, he's played in all 13 games, but has only started 4. But they keep getting him at bats really throughout. And then Hayden Christensen and Carter Hendrickson are 2 other guys to really circle. Hendrickson, because of a .314 average, and Christensen because of the 11 RBIs. So they have a lot of guys they can interchange in this lineup. The ones I would really tell you to keep an eye on, though, McCormick, Cushing, and Stevenson, even though Stevenson's off to a bit of a slow start, and then Waxman, who has just been gangbusters bursting onto the scene for Xavier. Let's move over to the pitching staff. We went through the starters. Let's go through some of the bullpen. We will start at the back end, and that is where you find Jonathan Kelly. Funky delivery from the right side. Been at Xavier for a long, long time. Has made 79 career appearances for the Musketeers. Told you, funky sidearm delivery from the right side, so he's not going to blow you away with the fastball or anything of that nature. He's only got 5 strikeouts in 9 1/3 innings, but has appeared in 5 games, leads the team in saves with 2. He's really kind of moved to the back end of the bullpen, and to go along with the fastball that is going to be mid to high 80s from his sidearm slot. He's got a nice little slider as well. In those 5 appearances in 9 2/3, a 2.89 ERA. So you're looking at a real veteran arm that has been through the wars, but relies on some really good command. Only the 2 walks in the 9 1/3, so he has had that. Where he's gotten in trouble has been the hits. 9 hits in 9 1/3, that's a little high. But Jonathan Kelly, that's somebody they're going to go to if they ever have a game in the balance here this weekend against LSU. Somebody who has been an incredible newcomer for them is Jake Hooker. He is a true freshman righty who can run it up there, low 90s, might bump a 94 every now and then, but has been awesome. Tied for the team lead so far as a true freshman with 7 appearances, 9 innings, an ERA of 3. So he's been really, really good, and they've relied on him an awful lot, clearly, as you see the 7 appearances tied for the team lead. Just a really good young arm from the right side with already some good power in the right arm, but it looks like that could potentially further develop, I guess, for him as he moves on through college. The other guy with 7 appearances is Alex Vera, sidearm lefty, kind of the inverse of Jonathan Kelly. Again, not going to blow you away at all with the fastball. It'll probably be, low to mid 80s there, but he's got a breaking ball that he throws off of it. He as well going to rely a lot on command. Only the 2 walks so far on the season, but only 9 strikeouts as well. But it hasn't been a quality enough strike. The opponent's hitting .303 off of Vera, but it's somebody that they're going to count on. He's one of their more veteran guys, but what's odd is, he's a transfer from Illinois. This is his first year there, but he's pitched plenty in college baseball so far. So those are really the guys to keep an eye on in the bullpen. Outside of that, it hasn't been very good for Xavier from a pitching staff standpoint. Tyler Sawsville is a guy that they go to often, but command has really been a problem for him. Command's been a problem for the staff. Look, we can look at their numbers and see him with an ERA over 7 as a team batting average against over 300, but the walks have been such an issue, especially in that starting rotation where you go back to Nolan Hughes with 14 walks in 6 2/3 innings. You look at Nick Boyle with 13 walks in 13 innings. Tyler Sawsville, 9 walks in 10 innings. That's just been a problem for them, and LSU works the counts with the best of them. So the offense for LSU should be able to have plenty of success coming up on the weekend against Xavier. So that's one thing I obviously want to see from them is continue to work great counts, get these guys out of the game early, and get into this bullpen where you can really take advantage, of whether it's the high batting average against or just command issues. For LSU, like some individual players, I want to see Paxton Clean continue to do great at the top of the order to continue to kind of set the table there. We're going to go back to our quote-unquote battle in right field between Pearson and Brown and hopefully Ashton Larson. Can one of those guys start to separate themselves a little bit as you go through this final pre-conference weekend? That's something I absolutely want to see from LSU. From a pitching staff side of things for the Tigers, I'm loving these low walk totals, y'all. Wednesday night against Southeastern, LSU struck out 20 for the second time in 4 games. And not only that, in those 220 strikeout performances from this pitching staff, do you know how many they walked? They walked a combined 5. That is awesome. Like, the walk total has been it's been incredible for LSU, really after a shaky opening weekend, and I want to see them continue to pound the strike zone, continue to, dominate there. 5 combined walks to 40 strikeouts. That's absurd. That's a great ratio. You'll get that done. So just continue to pound the strike zone. I want to see LSU get deep into their bullpen too. And I know that's kind of counterintuitive because I also want to see the starters kind of extend. But and for what it's worth, they have 5 games in 6 days before they start SEC play. But so you're going to have plenty of opportunity to get deep there. But if you could, get a guy like Cam Johnson some time this weekend, get a guy like Cade Woods some time this weekend, maybe get Micah Bucknam back out there for an extent, that'd be great. I would love to see that because, look, you're going to see Gavin Gidger. You're going to see Fidel Ulloa. I'm still looking for guys who could potentially step up in that bullpen. So we'll go back to Christian Little again. I'd love to see Aiden Moffitt, Sam Dutton. We haven't seen Sam Dutton pitch in a while since the Rice game. It's been since Rice that Sam Dutton has pitched, so it's 4 games ago. There's plenty of guys that I want to see get back out there. LSU has so many arms that, finding the time to get them all innings has proven to be a bit of a challenge. But that's kind of what I'm looking for there. Continue to throw strikes, keep that walk total down. We've told you what we wanted from each of the starters. From the offense, keep that same approach. Really work the count this weekend because you got a team in here who struggles with command. So really work the count at the plate offensively if you're LSU, and see if you get any separation out there in right field and in a position battle. And please give Ashton Larson a start. I would really like to see it. And I'm just going to keep saying that every single time we're here. I'm going to keep saying that. Prediction, I think this is one that LSU can get all 3. It wouldn't surprise me if they dropped one of these. I think Xavier's just been a really competitive ball club in a lot of the games that they have played. But looking at going back to that opening weekend against Clemson, they struggled and the defense has really let them down. So I never really like to predict a sweep, but I will predict a sweep for LSU this weekend, with the caveat that if they drop one, it definitely wouldn't surprise me because I think Xavier's a pretty game ball club. I really, really do. But there you have it. There's your preview. There's what we're watching. There's your prediction. So now that all that's left is for them to play the games. Hopefully the rain stays away and they can get them all 3 of them in as scheduled. No problem. Like, subscribe to the podcast, to the YouTube channel, smash the like button. all of that appreciated. Follow me on social media. You know we have you covered here on Musso at the Box. Be back with us next time for another edition here on Musso at the Box.